Well, good morning and welcome to Morning Cuppa. It's great to have your company this morning. You ever get a song stuck in your head? I get songs stuck in my head all the time. And it seems that they're never the song that I want to have stuck in my head. It's always some irritating, catchy pop song that gets stuck in my head. And sometimes it's stuck in my head all day. In the morning I find myself singing it, and then I'm singing it all through the day. And sometimes I can get the same song stuck in my head for a week. And it's not just me who gets irritated by that song, but everybody around me, because I just can't help but hum the tune or sing it while I'm around the house or around the office. And it is so irritating when it's a song that you don't want that gets stuck in your head. I have had a psalm stuck in my head for months. A psalm from the Bible. The psalms in the Bible are written as songs. They're meant to be sung. And I've had one that has been stuck in my head for months. It's not my favorite psalm. It's not one of the psalms that brings me comfort or consolation, or that helps me to praise. I mean, there's so many psalms that I would love to have stuck in my head. There's so many psalms that are such wonderful psalms for me. They're psalms of joy and hope and consolation. Psalm 23, Psalm 40 is very meaningful. Psalm 46, Psalm 139. There are a whole bunch of psalms. There are even some psalms that are psalms of lament, some darker, sad psalms that can give voice to the cries of my heart when I don't have words to cry out to God, that give me those words. I think one of those darkest laments, Psalm 22, that Jesus cries out from the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? And some of those psalms of lament, how long, O Lord, how long? They're really powerful, and they may not be cheery psalms, but they're really rich and spiritually profound psalms. So I wouldn't even mind having one of those in my head. It's not the kind of psalm that I've had in my head. The psalm that I've had in my head is maybe my least favorite of all the psalms. It's Psalm 137. Now, if you don't know anything about the Bible, let me just tell you, this is a bleak psalm. And we're not going to do a Bible study on it today. But one thing you need to know is that it comes out of a period in biblical history called the Babylonian exile, when the people of God were uprooted from everything that they knew, everything that gave them identity and purpose. Their whole way of relating to God through temple sacrifice, coming to the temple in Jerusalem and worshiping God there in that place, in that building. Everything they knew about themselves was uprooted when the Babylonians pulled them out of Jerusalem, destroyed Jerusalem, and brought them into exile. And this psalm comes out of that time of where everything has been uprooted, where everything they know has been taken away from the rug, pulled out from under them. And it starts with, by the waters of Babylon, by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, and there we wept. And now that's the cheery part of the psalm, and it gets worse from there. It gets this question of, how can we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? So this psalm itself is not like a lament that's crying out, how long, O Lord, or even, my God, why have you forsaken me? It's not crying out to God for help. It's more crying out around God, a lament about God. And when it finally does turn to God at the very end of the psalm, by then it's just such bitterness and bile, and it's just kind of seeking to use God to smite people. It's really, really dark. In the middle of the psalm, there's this cry for the way it used to be, for what we used to know. It says, if I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand wither, let my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth, if I do not remember you, if I do not set Jerusalem above my highest joy. This is addressed not to God, but to Jerusalem. If I do not remember you, O Jerusalem, if I do not set Jerusalem above my highest joy. And then when it does turn to God, it's basically just seeking vengeance, and it ends with this: happy shall they be who take your little ones and dash them against the rock, you enemies. Well, we're not going to end it there, don't worry, because God doesn't end it there. But I want to share with you why I think this psalm has been rolling around in my head, and I haven't been able to shake it. It's because it's what I'm hearing in the city around me. Even from people who have never opened a Bible, who know nothing about the Psalms, I hear this same sort of cry in the world around me. People who feel profoundly uprooted from everything that we knew, who are looking back to what was and are feeling increasingly a sense of desperation and even despair. The hope in this psalm is not from the human voice that cries out, but from God's response. And God does respond. God responds in the time of the exile, and I believe that God is responding now. The way that God responded in the time of the exile was to give people a new way. God's people were reshaped in this time. From people who looked for the presence of God in a temple, in a ritual, in a place, in a building, to people who found God's presence in community. Congregational worship. The synagogue was birthed in this little narrow window of human history. This whole idea of gathering in community, encountering God in one another and in that community, and also encountering God in the Bible. That was really born in this time, where people felt uprooted from everything they knew. They gathered together these sacred writings, and Torah took shape. God gave shape to the scriptures in this time. And the voices of the prophets, the prophets who cried out for justice, cried out against injustice, and cried out for a new way of living in God's love and mercy and righteousness. Those prophets had been shut up in Jerusalem, or shut down, or shut away. But now, uprooted in the exile, God's people heard hope in the prophets. And the same prophets and the same cries actually took on a whole new meaning for the people of God. And I believe that God is reshaping his people in this time as well. He's reshaping us for a mission of mercy, for a message of hope, and for a promise of presence in and through us. It's not going to look like what was, but I trust that God is reshaping us in a way that is going to reshape this city, is going to reshape the world. That's where my hope lies. And I hope that you're encountering that as well. We're finding new ways to connect and gather. And God is unfolding these for us. One simple way, if you're right now, you're wondering, well, how can I gather? I feel so isolated. I feel like I'm alone. There's a community you can gather in this very morning. For the last several weeks, we've been gathering online interactively in something called a Cuppa Cafe. You don't need to come and talk. You can come and just listen. But you're welcome to come and share what's going on in your life, or just share a cuppa with us. all you need to do is shoot an email right here to christianlife@wesleymission.org.au. If you do that right now, at 9:15 today, you can click that link and you'll be part of our interactive cuppa cafe. Just come. We're not won't be going into a deep dive into the Psalm 137 today, but we will be sharing a little bit of life together, sharing a little bit of hope together, sharing that presence that God brings through all of us. And it would bring me a measure of hope to see you in Cuppa Cafe along with the others who have been gathering week after week. Would love to have you there. So whether you're with us in Cuppa Cafe today or not, I pray that God's presence would be with you and others around you would encounter God's presence in you today, and that today you would have a hope-filled